All right, guys. I told a few of you that I would do the measurements, and the only way that I can really do the measurements is to do it on my phone, upload it, and then add it to the video. So what I did is I found some sinus rhythms online, and I sent them through my printer and printed them out so that I can show you guys how to do the measurements. And we're going to talk about sinus rhythms. Also going to talk about how to measure rate, so the 1500 and the 300 rule. And then we'll go from there. But this specific section of this is going to talk about measurements because you guys asked. So this rhythm is going to be a sinus rhythm. I measured this out already. Your R to R on this is going to be measured just like this, okay? And you're going to come down here and you're going to count that, and that's going to be about 22 small boxes. So you can see up here, I did 22 divided by 1500, or 1500 divided by 22 is 68. So the heart rate on this is 68. If you want to measure your PR interval, you go like this, and that about right there is your PR interval, and that is going to be like 0.16, 0.14. It's kind of right on the line. So you can go 0.16, 0.14. That would work too. Your QRS is going to be from here to about here, which is going to end up being 0.08 exactly. Your QT is going to be, let me get these damn calipers right. Okay. Your QT measurement is going to be about, your normal QT measurement is going to be about 0.4, and that's about right where we're at. It's about right where we want to be. So there's that, and that's how you measure that. You go from there to there, and you measure that. The QRS, like I said, is measured like this. Again, since I was messing that up. And that's really the three main measurements that you need to know how to take, is the rate, the PR, and the QRS. Like I said last night, the QT isn't really as important. So then we're to move on to sinus Brady. This one's really hard to see, but if you look at the lines right here in between my calipers, those are actually the big boxes. So when you measure this, you're going to measure this out, and it's going to be 40 small boxes. So it's going to be 8 big boxes, which equals 40 small boxes. Remember, there's 5 small boxes in every big box, okay? So that's how I'm getting 40, all right? So you take 1500 divided by 40, and you get 37, okay? This is a slower rhythm, so it looks bigger, but it's not really. That's why I kind of blew these up a little bit. So this one is going to end up being about a 0.20 on the PR, so it's going to be right borderline. And your QRS is going to be right there, about 0.08, okay? So 0.08 on that. Your heart rate is going to be 37, like I said on that. This one is going to be tacky. It's going to be sinus tack. And here we're going to measure this R to R, and that R to R is going to give us about 12 boxes, which is exactly 12. And that's going to give you a rate when you take 1500 divided by 12. That's going to give you a rate of 125, okay? come down here, and this is a little more difficult because tachyrhythms are very close together. The T and the P are going to always be close together, as you can see. So, this one, you're going to want to start about right here, okay, and go to the Q wave, and your QRS is going to be about 0.18, 0.16, okay. It is okay to estimate PR intervals in 0.2s if you feel like it's in between two boxes, which if you look at that, it is in between two small boxes, okay? So that's why I'm calling it, 0.16 to 0.18, all right? Your QRS in most arrhythmias or most tachy patients is going to be about the same. It's going to be about 0.08, and you can see that I'm about 0.08 right there. And the rate on this is going to be 125. So as you can see, the T wave of the preceding QRS before the next QRS is bunched up, and they're actually less than one big box. And this is where reading atrial arrhythmias becomes kind of a pain in the ass, because if these are all bunched up here, they are it's really hard to tell to differentiate the P from the T, and we'll talk about that when we talk about like atrial rhythms and stuff like that. But it gets really hard to pull these together, okay? So I'm going to go to the computer screen now, and we're going to look at these, and you'll be able to see all of that, and we'll talk about some slides and stuff for doing the 1500 rule. Alright guys, it's Justin, I'm back. So, to kind of reiterate on some of the stuff we talked about where I showed you how to do the measurements. So we're going to talk about the 1500 rule and the 300 rule, okay? Very rarely will you ever find a rhythm that has the exact number of big boxes where you can use the 300 rule. But if you do, it's not it's okay to use the 300 rule. Most of the time you're going to use a 1500 rule, okay? And basically what the 1500 rule is you take a you take that tachyarrhythmia that we looked at earlier, and you pull that up, and you see that you saw me measure it earlier, so this is going to be 12 small boxes, okay? So you take your calculator and come over, and you're going to do 1500 divided by 12, which is going to give you 125, okay? And that's how you're going to get your stuff. There are some cheat sheets out there, and I actually had one, and I don't know where it's at, where it lays out the small boxes and the big boxes, and then it shows you the measurements that you'll see on each, and then what those measurements correlate to as far as a heart rate. Honestly, the more that you do it, the more that you'll get to the point where you'll be able to print a strip off and go, yeah, that's fast, no, that's slow, okay, that's cool. So this is sinus tack, and this is a 6-second strip. So another way that you can do a rate challenge, which is not if it's a regular rhythm, you should always do the 1500 rule or the 300 rule to figure out what the rate is on the rhythm, okay? If you're doing a 1500 rule, again, it's 1500 divided by how many small boxes. 300 rule is 300 divided by how many big boxes. The 6-second average is going to be, on this strip, is going to be about 130. Okay, so you can see that if I average the strip, it doesn't come. It comes out close enough to the 1500 rule where it's not going to matter. But it's always good for practice that you get the exact heart rate that you're looking for. So, and like I said, you know, in my other video before this one, when you're looking at the P and the T waves, remember that the P and the T waves on these sinus tach rhythms are going to be lumped together. Okay. Next one we're going to look at is going to be a sinus rhythm. So this is an actual regular sinus rhythm, and this is going to be a rate of approximately 60. We're going to look at, it's going to be a rate of approximately 68. This is going to be normal. There's going to be your PR is going to be good, your QRS is going to be good, and you've got a normal T wave there. Like I said, you know, this is what you have to understand what normal looks like, and this is what normal looks like. Normal, it's normal because there's a P wave, there's a QRS, and there's a T wave, and then there's not any ectopy in it. So there, and when I say ectopy, I mean PVCs, PACs, PAT, PSVT, anything like that. Okay, and we see that in a Brady rhythm such as this one, this is 60. Sorry, this is 40 average. But when you actually do the 1500 rule, it comes out to 37. Okay. Again, your PR on this rhythm is 0.20 and your QRS is 0.08. As you can see, it's very slow, and that's how you can tell, is it slow, fast, or within normal limits. And those are the three things that you want to ask yourself right off the bat when you start interpreting rhythm strips. Is it front, or is it fast, slow, or is it normal looking? Because once you learn all the rhythms, you can take fast, slow, and normal, and immediately, as soon as you know if it's fast, slow, or normal, you can automatically start eliminating what it's not. Okay? So, like if you see this, for example, on a monitor, you know it's slow. So, there's a few slow rhythms that, you know, I can think of off the top of my head right now. We've got sinus Brady, which is what this is. We've got third degree heart block. We've got idioventricular rhythm, which obviously you can throw that one out because the QRS isn't wide enough. And, you know, any other slow rhythm that you can think of. Okay? So that is, on the Brady end, that is that's the sinus Brady. And that's how I go through reasoning, deductive reasoning, and removing what it's not so that I can figure out what it is. And other than that, I do believe that this is probably going to conclude this video, because this is, like I said, this is a short video. But just remember that you have to be able to understand what normal is. And like I said earlier, this is what normal is. Normal is, it has a P wave, it has a QRS, and it has a T wave. As you are going through and looking at rhythm strips, you want to ask yourself a few questions. The first question you want to ask yourself is, does it have a P wave? Is the R to R regular? Is there a QRS for every P wave? And we already asked if it was regular. So those are the three questions that you want to ask yourself. If you can say yes to all of those, then it's probably a sinus rhythm of some sort, whether it's tach, Brady, or tach, Brady, or whatever. You also get into, what's called a sinus arrhythmia, which I have to pull up real quick because I don't have one on me right now. Let's see here. I had to add one to it. So, okay, so this is a sinus arrhythmia. Okay, and this is one that I should have probably added, and I forgot about it until I was sitting here talking about regularity. So as you can see, this R to R is really about 25 24 here. Here it's about 26. Here it's about 20, 40, 60. So we're going to say 66, 67, okay? So you can see the R to R is different, okay? And you can see that this is not a regular rhythm. So always remember that just because it's not a regular rhythm doesn't mean that it can't be sinus. Sinus just means that it has a P wave, and it's a normal looking rhythm. This is still a normal rhythm. A lot of times you see this with people with respiratory problems. Their heart rate will start correlating with their breathing. You can see that sometimes. Or if they've got like a sick sinus syndrome or something like that, you can see an arrhythmia. And you have to be careful of the baseline artifact as well. So again, this one I didn't print off and measure. But you can already see if you look at this and you stare at it long enough that this is in fact a sinus arrhythmia because it's not regular. There is a P wave and there's a QRS for every P wave, but it's not regular. So just because something is irregular does not mean that it's AFib. Okay? I am going to close this one, and then the next video will focus on atrial rhythms. Have a good day.